So this is looking in the red binder of pictures.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's my parents right there. On the right side.
So let me pull that out. Right here. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Oh boy. My father is on the left. And he worked. I always used to say, some people applauded their father because he started at the ground and worked up. But my father started under the ground and worked up. He worked for the water department.
And,
So,
and your mother?
and mother was a homemaker, totally, in our experience. But before we were born, she worked, and it was like a CVS store, but it wasn't called. It didn't have that name. I think it was called Pomeroy's, which was the name of the owner.
I also found this. I'm going to read the note. It says, I, Norma, take thee, James, to be my wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, as long as we both shall live, according to God's holy ordinance, and thereto I give thee my troth. Saturday, September 9th, 1961.
Exactly a year before Philip was born.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He was born on our anniversary, first anniversary.
Well, that's a wonderful anniversary gift.
Yeah. It was. I don't know. Well,
The next thing I see here is the Swingle Singers have York relatives. It's an article, I believe, about Norma's family. Is that right?
that's true. She was of that family. I mean, it wasn't a close relationship. It was distant, but with the same name, Swingle. And she couldn't sing at all. Strangely enough. That was very strange. But she was of that crew, I guess you call it.
You and Philip were the big singers in your family, right?
That's true. Yeah, well, Mary can sing too. But we seldom had an opportunity to sing together. I remember we sang at somebody's ordination day at the church in York, Pennsylvania. And Mary sang with Philip and I at that. And she did sing well, but I think she still does sing well.
And you have the records of Philip singing in high school as well.
Yeah, a lot of his crew or people. He knows a lot of the soloists, and I think he had some of this short solos.
I just found this, Ohio Pupils Reading Circle. This is to certify that Norma Swingle of Philo, Ohio, Muskingum County has read under the auspices of the Ohio Teachers Reading Circle, the books named below, which constitute the 1942 and 43 first year of the course, is chosen by the Board of Control and authorized by the Ohio State Teachers Association. And it lists the books that she read. Juan Edgar, The Runaway Elephant. King, Find the Animals. Ray, Hey, Do You Get There? Craig et al., We Want to Know. And Michael's Come and Read. So, if you're an avid reader, that'd be one that Norma enjoyed.
She was a reader. That's true. And I was not. It's a sad admission on my part, but I couldn't stay awake long enough to read a book. Never tried that. And which means I was relatively illiterate, even through all of these studies that I did.
So
How did I make a go of it? Yeah, my way was to sit either in the front row of the class or the back. And if I sat in the front row, I could ask questions and get answers and that kind of thing. And the same with the back. And if I sat in the back, I wasn't as much an annoyance to the rest of the class. So, but if there were questions, I often asked questions after the class in school and to college. But and then sometimes even during the sessions, I would ask questions. But I read almost nothing, actually. Well, I read nothing, that's right. I didn't read books.
So when you look through the newspaper, what are you looking at?
Headlines, pictures, captions to the pictures. That's it primarily. It gave me an understanding of what an illiterate person has to do just to get by. That's what I did.
You did very well.
Yeah, I learned relatively recently that it's not the only way to learn. and I was able to get by with what I had to work with. And it's not a total loss. Strangely enough, where was it? I was in some place where they tested me and so forth, and they found out I had a high IQ, but I couldn't use it, so I used it as much as I could, and that worked a lot of the time, but it's kind of humorous in a way. I felt very much handicapped by that, and didn't feel I functioned as well as if I was able to use it. But
those experiences gave you a very unique perspective on life.
That's true. That's true. And understanding other people's handicaps, which sometimes is worse than mine. You know, so I didn't worry too much about that. But I didn't. I finally, late in life, realized this is hopeless. I can't do this. So, and that was a good revelation. Because it solved a lot of problems.
And I'd say that I've never felt the absence of your ability to read during our conversations. You are very smart. You are able to share
Yeah.
a lot of experiences.
I think that's true. It isn't the only way to learn is to read a lot. But it is very helpful if you can do it. I've noticed that, especially.
Well, speaking of things that I think are admirable, I think you, instead of capturing words, you've captured pictures. And I think you were telling me last time about this one that you took of Norma.
Yeah, this is Mary, at the same spot. She went to see the spot, but Mary was born just after before I took the picture, and this is on the west coast of Korea. And that the water in the background, this is right on the water's edge of the Yellow Sea, which if you could see through there, you would see China on the other side, because on the other side of the...
Can you show that picture on the video? Kind of
Oh,
what,
yeah.
what you're describing?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I don't know if...
You're saying that
Yeah.
in this picture of Norma, right here, if I hold this back here,
She was, yeah. That was on the Yellow Sea, which was between Korea and China.
and then Mary's in that same spot years later?
Yeah,
Very fun.
just,
And then I have some family pictures that we were looking at before as well.
oh,
Can you tell me who's in this picture?
let's see. Oh, I'm not too, yeah, I know who that is. That happens to be Philip, Norma's mother, father, and who is this? That's Mary. I think that is Mary. This is, of course, this was long after they were born, both Philip and Mary.
It's hard to tell what year this was taken.
By their age, that's probably the best way. And it looks like Philip is quite old there.
I can see you in the background in the kitchen area.
Uh-huh. Oh, well, boy, you have a pretty good eye there. I can't see anyone back there. That's interesting. Yeah, that's Philip. And how did you pick me out? I can't.
I can see your hair behind Philip's head.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Wow.
but it's in the shadows.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Interesting. And Mary's, that was a rare opportunity that we had to take their pictures, because not many pictures of them, that family. I ought to write on the back, I guess, sometime.
And this one appears to be from Mary's wedding.
Mary's wedding, right. You're probably familiar with this place where they were married. It's, I don't have it marked, but it's down on, what is it, Summit Avenue? Is there a Summit Avenue?
Yes, in St. Paul.
Yeah, I think that's where that is. Why? Oh, they chose that as a location for their wedding. It wouldn't have been my choice, but anyway, that's beside the point. Yeah.
Then, so let me hold up that picture as well. So that's you, Mary's husband, John, Mary, and Norma, correct? And then these appear to be at a holiday party with the family. So this one here, and
Yeah. That was at Mary's house. Mary and John's house. And they live on 7th Street. Street, just off the path that goes along the shore.
of White Bear Lake.
But it's on 7th Street.
Oh, okay.
The end of 7th Street. That goes into the road that goes by the water.
And that one?
Wow. Well, this is. Oh. I don't know. I should have marked these. I guess. That is. I don't know what to say about this. It's obviously in the home of I'm not sure. Not sure. But Norma's sitting here. And I'm way behind her in the picture. I think I'm in the distance.
I see you behind the lamp.
Yeah.
You're hiding out.
You're right.
And then I think for our last picture today is this one. It's actually a family picture. You have to tell me when, but it's when they were
Oh yeah.
you, Norma, Mary, and Philip.
Yes. And that was I think it was when we came home from Korea. Because Mary was born already. Mary was born in Korea. What? Oh boy, I should have these marked.
So Philip was born 1 year after you and Norma were married.
Yeah.
And then when was Mary born?
Well, she's 65. It was in 65 she was born. So she looks cute, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. They both do.
Yeah.
So there were a couple questions that we didn't get to last week in Grandfather Remembers, Memories for my grandchildren. And the next section that we were going to talk about was Memories of when you were a boy.
Oh, yeah.
We'll grab a pen here. So, as a boy, life's many highways stretched before my eyes. Where my path would lead would come as a surprise. So the first question is this: where did your family live?
Well, this is an awkward question. Yeah, but I'll do an awkward answer, I guess.
Okay.
We lived. My my grandfather owned a. What can I call it? Yeah, it was a not a bus stop. There wasn't no buses at the time. There were horse and buggy
Mm-hmm.
in those days when it was built, and it's called Cross Keys Hotel, actually. And the reason it was called Cross Keys was it did have two keys, big keys out front on the sign. And so he had that before Prohibition. But then when Prohibition came along, he no longer could sell any alcoholic beverages. But he was helpful in providing our family with cheap rent. And so we were born over the bar room. But he no longer sold alcohol because they were prevented from doing that.
And that was between Reading and
Pottsville. Now there are two Potts. There's a Pottstown, which is which is between Reading and Philadelphia. But then Pottsville is beyond our place where we were born. It's up on, call it what they call that? I should know. It's where a lot of coal, that kind of thing came from.
the next question in the book is, our neighborhood was special because.
Oh.
So they're asking what was special about your neighborhood where you grew up.
Well, the first 10 years, we were living there right next to the bar room, actually, which now no longer, fortunately for us, was able to sell alcohol, for which I was thankful. When I grew older, I realized that wasn't exactly the best place to be when alcohol was allowed.
And what were your jobs around the house?
Oh, in that place, that was the first 10 years of my life. Relatively minor home chores for mother and Margaret was my sister, of course. Margaret was born a year before me. She always says 11 months, which is true. I mean, it was really 11 months, I think. And So I'm not sure I was too welcome at that age.
It can be hard having young children. So maybe that leads to my next question. What is a hardship that your family had to overcome?
Well, I wouldn't attribute it to the location where we were born and raised the first 10 years of my life.
Well, maybe just a general question is, when you were growing up, when you were a little boy, was there a hardship that your family overcame?
I guess it would be and this is probably indicates a prejudice or something. I didn't feel that we had much or did much while I was in that original home. It had interesting. It had a big, long front.
Like a porch or a veranda?
Yeah, porch. Where for me it was great because I could ride my bicycle. I'm not a bicycle. It was a tricycle. Hand-me-down tricycle. So that was okay. That was fun. But then after the first 10 years, then we moved to the city, and it was quite different. The city. And we had to move because my father was working for the water department, and they insisted on they being located in the city in which they worked. So that's why we moved there, and that was totally different experience. You're half a block between would have been I don't know what you call a little store, like a corner store.
Oh, sure.
And we're in the city, and then on the other end of that, we lived just below that. We lived just west of the corner store, which was right across from across from the high school, junior high school. It's a junior high school, and on the other end of the block, away from the high school, was a bar, which was a part of a club. It was really a club, which had a bar, and that was not too healthy situation.
Understandable.
Yeah.
So in school, the next question is, as a student, what kind of stuff did you do in school? What did you enjoy?
Well, when we moved to the city, we walked. I already told you that this was in, believe it or not, Ripley, one street where you could go from kindergarten through college.
Mm-hmm.
And we started, my sister and I, we started in 6th grade. So we didn't enjoy the elementary school very much. It was a very short stay in there because we just finished 6th grade there, and that's all. Just of the whole.
So probably the most notable thing is as a student,
Yeah.
from 6th grade on, all
All
your-
through the rest of them, yeah.
they were on that same street.
Same street, but different location of the street. For instance, the elementary school was right across the street from the college, as a matter of fact, and Albright College it was called, and it was named after one of the founders of the education schools. He was we could walk. We walked to all of the schools that we attended there, and not on that one street, which is understandable.
What was your ambition?
Like when I was in
When you were going to school,
uh,
what was your ambition?
baseball.
Really?
That's all. That was my ambition from from the beginning. And my father played a lot of baseball, softball it was, and I ended up doing the same thing, but in the city, where competition was keener than it had been out in the country. And I soon learned, well, no, I didn't soon learn, I should have soon learned that this was not supposed to be my vocation by any means. But it was what I chose to do. I loved it. But I realized the high school had about four feeder schools that came into it, and so we lived right next to the junior high school. The senior high school, which all of us were funneled into, that was where I learned that, well, this is not for me. I can't compete with the big guys from the other schools. So
I have 3 final questions for you.
yeah.
So here's the first one. My parents taught me to value what? I'll say that again. My parents taught me to value
What? Yeah. I think the opportunities, I think, that were provided by the move into the city. That was obvious. people you lived with and worked with in school. Yeah, they taught us that.
Question number 2. What I loved about my father was blank.
Wow.
Number 2, what I loved about my father was
his devotion to his work. I used to say people like their father because he started at the ground and worked up, and mine started under the ground and worked up, and he was a very important person in doing that, but he never really achieved much otherwise until late in life, when he became the chief engineer at the pumping station of the water department, which was originally not originally, but before that was my grandfather's job.
So the family history continued.
Yes.
And here's the third and final question for today. What I loved about my mother was. What I loved about my mother was.
Her life, or
What did you love about your mother?
wow. Well, she was everything to us early in life, because she obviously struggled hard to, quote, make ends meet, and under the circumstances next to the bar, which wasn't a bar. Fortunately, it was not a bar while we lived there. But we didn't have. She had herself had a hard time with his father's attitudes. They didn't get along. That's what it amounted to. So, and we had no running water or electricity. We had no electricity either at that stage.
Sure.
So, she always took her laundry to her mother's house, where they had electricity and running water.
Well, these are great stories, and we will continue to work our way through this book. But we answered the questions for today. We took some of the pictures from these memories in the red binder.
Yeah.
And it gives you a chance to just tell your family a little bit more about what your life's been like.
My which?
To tell your family what your life has been like.
Oh, yeah.
Especially because
It is true.
as we get older, we don't always remember to ask the questions.
That's true. Yeah.
Do you have a final word of wisdom to?
Not really, except that I have a wonderful helper here in putting all this together. And that is
Kate.
Kate.
And it is truly my pleasure to be able to come and spend the time with you and
Oh,
share memories and music.
yeah.
Because we had choir today, and the whole way
Right.
back I enjoyed whistling with you.
And you, you are the greatest. I mean, you, for everyone in the choir and for other reasons, you're a blessing to me.
I have to tell you, Jim, it's a blessing to be able to be there for others.
Yeah, well, you do it. You do it well. Yeah.
I whistle a happy tune, and every single time the happiness in the tune convinces me that I'm not afraid.
Amen.
Whenever I feel afraid, I hold my head erect and whistle a happy tune, so no one will suspect I'm afraid. The result of this deception is very strange to tell, for when I fool the people I fear, I fool myself as well. I whistle a happy tune, and every single time the happiness in the tune convinces me that I'm not afraid.
Yay. Thank you.
Well, this was an absolute pleasure, and we will do this again on Thursday.
Wow. Thursday. Now, that'll have to be after,
It'll be before I go see
Before.
Philip. Yep.
before Phil.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we'll have our time before Philip
Yeah.
to share some more stories, and then I'll head over and see if he's up for some singing. But until then, toodaloo
Toodaloo.
and peace.
Peace.